Their laughter filled the air as my clothes fell. I froze. I could hear it. Their laughter was not soft or playful. It was sharp, cutting, heavy with cruelty. The deed that had been planned with so much joy, so much hope, had turned to ash before my very eyes. My chest rose and fell. My knees shook, and I felt the ground sway beneath me. I wanted to run, but my legs would not move. I wanted to scream, but my throat tightened until it hurt. My hands tried to cover myself, but it was too late. Everyone had already seen. And just as I thought it could not get any worse, a familiar voice rose above the crowd, clear and merciless. "So this is who you really are?" I turned toward that voice, and everything around me stopped. I know you want to understand how I got to that point. How could things ever come to such a place, where laughter turned into knives and dignity was torn away in a blink? To answer that, I must take you back. Not a day back, not a week back, but months earlier to when it all began. It started in the most ordinary way, on a calm evening at Grandma's house. Grandma's house always smelled of wood smoke and fried onions. She lived at the very edge of the small town, where the path from the market turned to dust and the trees stretched tall, whispering their secrets to the wind. To me, her house was a safe place, a world away from the noise and trouble of the streets where children fought and adults shouted. Grandma herself was small, wrinkled, and always moving about with a cane in one hand and her apron tied too tight around her waist. But don't let that fool you. Her voice could cut like a whip when she was angry, and her laughter, oh, her laughter could heal a broken heart. That day, I was sitting on the wooden bench outside her house, watching the clouds move like slow ships across the sky. Life seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful. I didn't know that storm clouds, real ones and hidden ones, were already gathering. "Why are you sitting there like a stone, Mary?" Grandma called from inside. "If you have nothing to do, then wash those plates. Or better yet, help me cut the peppers before your lazy hands forget how to work." I sighed, dragging myself inside. Grandma never allowed anyone to stay idle. She believed idleness opened doors to trouble, and trouble was something she never wanted near her house. As I cut the peppers, she told me one of her stories. Grandma was a master storyteller, spinning her tales in ways that made your heart rise and fall like a drumbeat. That day, she told me about betrayal, the kind that comes not from strangers but from people you trust the most. She said betrayal is like fire. It always leaves ashes behind. I didn't understand then. I thought she was just telling one of her usual lessons about friends and trust. But now, looking back, I see it was almost like a warning. That evening, something unusual happened. A knock came at the door. Hard, fast, urgent. Grandma wiped her hands and went to open it, and standing there was a boy about my age. His name was Daniel. His shirt was torn, his hair messy, and his eyes wild like he had been running from something. "Please," he said, breathing heavily. "I need a place to stay. Just for tonight." I stared at him, confused. Who was he? Where had he come from? Grandma looked at him long and hard before opening the door wider. "Come in," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You will eat, and then you will tell me everything." That night, while the lamps burned low and the crickets sang outside, Daniel told us his story. He said he had no parents, no home, and had been surviving on scraps for months. His voice trembled as he spoke, and I felt both pity and curiosity. Grandma listened without a word, only nodding once in a while. When he finished, she simply said, "You can stay here, but in this house you will work. No one eats for free." Daniel agreed quickly, his eyes wide with relief. At first, life seemed normal. He helped with chores, carried firewood, fetched water from the stream, and even cracked jokes that made me laugh when Grandma wasn't looking. Slowly, he became like part of the family. But then, small things began to happen. Strange things. The first was the missing coin. Grandma kept a jar of coins under her bed. Savings, she said, were for a rainy day. One morning, she asked me to fetch the jar, and when I brought it, her face darkened. Several coins were gone. "Did you touch this, Mary?" she asked sharply. "No." I shook my head. Her eyes shifted to Daniel. He looked straight back at her, calm. "I didn't touch it." For a long time, Grandma said nothing. Then she put the jar away. But I could tell she wasn't satisfied. Days later, A loaf of bread disappeared from the kitchen. Then a scarf. Then some soap. Each time Grandma would ask, and each time Daniel denied. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Something in his eyes made me want to trust him. But trust is a fragile thing. One afternoon, as I came back from the stream, I heard laughter. Not Grandma's laughter. It was sharp, mocking laughter, drifting from the other side of the bushes. Curious, I crept closer. And there, hidden in the trees, I saw Daniel with a group of older boys. He was laughing with them, showing them something shiny, Grandma's coin. My heart stopped. I wanted to rush forward, to shout, but fear held me back. What if they turned on me? What if Daniel denied everything again and I had no proof? So I stayed silent. But silence, I would later learn, can be as dangerous as a lie. That silence carried me, step by step, toward the night when everything changed. The night when laughter filled the air as my clothes fell, and the deed turned to ash. And that night came faster than I ever imagined. It began with an invitation. Daniel came to me one evening, his eyes sparkling, his voice low. "Mary," he said, "I want to show you something. Something special. But you must not tell Grandma. Promise me." I hesitated. I could still remember the coin, the laughter in the bushes. But a part of me wanted to believe him again. Wanted to think maybe he had changed, maybe he was not all bad. "I promise," I said, against my better judgment. He smiled. That smile should have warned me. That night, after Grandma had gone to bed, I followed him down the path, deeper into the trees, where the moonlight barely touched the ground. My heart beat fast with both fear and excitement. Then suddenly we came upon a clearing. And there they were. The same group of boys from before. They grinned when they saw me, their eyes glinting with something I couldn't understand. "Here she is," Daniel said, his voice cold in a way I had never heard before. The laughter started. And then, the laughter grew louder. At first, I thought maybe they were laughing at something else, maybe some joke I didn't understand. But then one of the boys pointed at me, and the way his fingers shook with amusement told me the truth. It was me they were laughing at. Only me. My cheeks burned. My body stiffened. I turned to Daniel, hoping he would explain, hoping he would tell me this was all a mistake. But the look on his face was not the Daniel I thought I knew. His smile was cruel, twisted. He had brought me here for them. "Daniel." My voice trembled. He only shrugged. "Don't look at me like that. You think you're better than the rest of us, hiding behind Grandma's apron? Tonight you'll learn." The boys cheered, clapping, their laughter filling the night. Fear rushed through me like fire in my veins. I wanted to run, but one of them stepped behind me, blocking the path. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst. My hands gripped the hem of my dress, and then before I knew it, someone yanked hard. I gasped. My clothes slipped. The air turned heavy, filled with their cruel joy. Laughter, endless laughter. I tried to hold myself, tried to cover what I could, but they kept pointing, mocking, laughing. And in that moment, the words Grandma once said came crashing into my mind. Betrayal always leaves ashes behind. And she was right, because the deed, whatever it was meant to be, had already turned to ash. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. My knees shook. I stumbled backward, the world spinning. And then, like a knife slicing through the air, a voice cut across the laughter. "What are you doing?" The laughter stopped. The boys froze. My eyes widened. That voice, I knew it. It was Grandma. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her cane in one hand, her lamp in the other. The golden glow lit up her face, and though she was small and old, in that moment she looked taller than all of them. Her eyes burned like fire. For a moment, nobody moved. The silence was so thick you could hear the crickets far away. Then Grandma spoke again, louder this time. "Mary, come to me." I didn't hesitate. I pulled my dress up and ran to her, tears blinding my eyes. She put her arm around me, holding me close, her warmth steadying my trembling body. The boys shifted uneasily, glancing at one another. Daniel's smile had vanished. "Go home." Grandma's voice thundered in the night. "Before I let the whole town know what kind of monsters you are." One by one the boys backed away, their laughter gone, their faces pale. Daniel was the last to move. He looked at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't name: anger, regret, hatred. Then he spat on the ground and turned his back. Grandma held me tighter as they disappeared into the darkness. My tears fell fast, soaking her sleeve. But even as they left, I knew something had broken. Something that could never be repaired. The next morning, the house felt heavy. Grandma made breakfast, but I couldn't eat. She didn't ask me questions, and I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, staring at my plate. Finally, Grandma spoke. "Mary, you must be careful who you trust. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend." Her words cut deep. Because she was right. I had trusted Daniel. I had promised him. And that promise had led me straight into shame. But part of me still wondered. Why? Why did he do it? Was it just to humiliate me? Or was there something deeper, something I didn't understand? That question would haunt me in the days that followed. At first, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe Daniel would leave. Maybe the boys would forget. But no. That night in the clearing was only the beginning. Because 3 days later, rumors began to spread. It started small, 2 girls whispering at the market. Then 3 boys giggling as I passed on the road. Soon everyone seemed to know. The laughter followed me everywhere. At the well. At the market. Even in church. "Did you hear what happened to Mary?" they whispered. "They say she. No wonder she always acts so quiet." The words stung worse than the laughter. Each one felt like a stone thrown at my back. And Daniel? He walked around the village with his head high, smiling, as if he had done nothing wrong. Worse still, some people believed his version of the story, that I had gone willingly, that I had embarrassed myself. Every time I saw him, anger burned inside me. But anger alone could not protect me. One evening, after a long day of whispers and stares, I sat outside Grandma's house, hugging my knees, tears rolling down my cheeks. She came and sat beside me, silent for a long while. Then she said softly, "Mary, listen to me. People's laughter can wound, but it cannot define you. What happened is not who you are. Do you understand?" I shook my head. But everyone believes him. They think I wanted it. Grandma sighed deeply. The truth has a way of coming out, even if it hides in the dark for a while. But until then, you must hold on to your dignity. Never let shame turn you into what they say you are. Her words gave me strength but also fear. Because what if the truth never came out? What if Daniel always had the upper hand? I didn't know then that worse was coming. Much worse. It was a week later when the second extreme event struck. The evening had been quiet. I had gone to fetch water from the stream, the sun setting behind the trees. As I walked back, balancing the pot on my head, I heard voices ahead. Low, hushed, plotting voices. I stopped listening carefully. "She won't tell anyone," one voice said. "Are you sure?" another replied. "If she does, we'll make sure she never talks again." My heart dropped. I knew those voices. Daniel's group. They were planning something. Something worse than laughter, worse than rumors. And then I heard it. Daniel's voice. "Don't worry. I know how to deal with her. She thinks Grandma can protect her, but she won't always be around. We'll make her pay." The water pot nearly slipped from my head. Fear shot through me. They weren't finished with me. Not yet. And in that moment I realized, this was only the beginning of the nightmare. The words rang in my ears long after their voices faded into the distance. "We'll make her pay. Grandma won't always be around." I stood frozen on the path, the water pot still balanced on my head, though my body trembled so hard I thought it might fall. My breath came shallow, quick. Every rustle in the trees sounded like footsteps chasing me. Every shadow felt like eyes watching me. Slowly, carefully, I turned and began to walk back toward Grandma's house. My steps were shaky at first, but then they quickened until I was almost running. By the time I reached the compound, the pot of water nearly slipped from my head, crashing to the ground with a splash. Grandma rushed out, her eyes wide. "Mary, what is it? Why are you shaking like that?" I tried to speak, but my throat felt locked. Finally, the words tumbled out. They want to hurt me, Grandma. Daniel and his friends. I heard them. They said you can't always protect me." Grandma's face darkened like a storm rolling in. She took my hands, steadying me. Calm yourself, child. Tell me exactly what you heard. I repeated their words, each syllable shaking as it left my mouth. Grandma listened, her lips pressed tight, her knuckles white on her cane. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, "So it has come to this. I warned you, Mary. I told you betrayal leaves ashes. But I did not think it would grow this bold." Her eyes met mine, sharp and unflinching. "Listen to me carefully. You must not wander at night anymore. Do not leave the compound alone if you can help it. Promise me." I nodded quickly, my heart still pounding. But fear had already planted its seed. Every corner of the house felt unsafe. Every knock at the door made me jump. Even in my sleep, I could hear the echo of their laughter, the threat in Daniel's voice. The next day, I stayed close to Grandma. I helped her pound yams, sweep the yard, and sort dried beans. But even in the safety of her presence, my mind kept drifting back to the clearing, to Daniel's twisted smile. I kept asking myself the same question. Why me? Grandma seemed to sense my unease. After we finished eating, she sat me down on the wooden bench outside and told me another of her stories. This one was about a tortoise and a leopard. She said the tortoise once mocked the leopard, thinking the leopard was too slow to catch him. But the tortoise forgot one thing. Leopards are patient hunters. They wait, they watch, and when the time is right, they strike. The tortoise thought he was safe, Grandma said, her voice low. But the leopard was only waiting. Never think danger is gone just because it is quiet. Her eyes lingered on me, and I knew she was speaking about more than animals. Her words stayed in my heart, but so did the fear. That night, I couldn't sleep. The crickets outside chirped louder than usual, or maybe it was just my nerves. I lay on my mat, staring at the ceiling, every creak of the house making me jump. At one point, I thought I heard footsteps outside the window. My breath caught. Slowly, I sat up, straining to listen. The footsteps paused, then continued, circling the house. I wanted to scream for Grandma, but before I could, there was a sharp tap-tap on the window. I froze. Another tap-tap. Then a voice low and mocking, whispering through the darkness. "Mary, are you awake?" My blood turned to ice. I knew that voice. "Daniel." I scrambled backward, pressing my back to the wall. "Go away," I whispered harshly. He chuckled softly. "You can't hide forever. We'll be back for you. Wait and see." Then silence. I stayed awake the rest of the night, staring at the window, waiting for another sound. None came. But the damage was done. Sleep was impossible. The next morning, I told Grandma everything. She listened quietly, her eyes narrowing. When I finished, she stood up with a firmness that surprised me. "That boy has gone too far," she said. "If the elders won't handle him, then I will." I had never seen her so angry. She marched out of the compound, her cane striking the ground with each step. I hurried after her, afraid of what she might do. She went straight to Daniel's house. His uncle, a tall man with a harsh face, answered the door. "Your boy is causing trouble," Grandma said without hesitation. "He sneaks around my house at night, threatening my granddaughter. If you don't put a stop to it, I will take this matter before the elders." The man frowned. "Daniel? No, you must be mistaken. He was here all night." "He was not," Grandma snapped. "I heard him with my own ears. And if you won't discipline him, then don't blame me when others do." The man's face hardened. "Mind your tongue, old woman. Children these days are wild, but they are not criminals. Don't bring shame to my family with false accusations." Grandma's eyes blazed. "False? You will see soon enough." She turned sharply and walked away, pulling me along. As we left, I caught sight of Daniel behind the door. He was grinning. That same grin that haunted me. He had heard everything. That night, I thought Grandma's warning would scare him. I thought maybe he would back off. But I was wrong. Because 2 days later the second threat came louder, clearer, and more dangerous. It was evening, and Grandma had gone to visit a neighbor. I was alone, sweeping the yard, when a stone flew over the fence and landed at my feet. Tied to it was a scrap of paper. My hand shook as I picked it up and read the words scrawled in messy handwriting. "Next time we won't just laugh. We'll burn everything." I dropped the paper, my heart racing. My eyes darted around, but the street was empty. Only the rustling of leaves in the wind. I knew then that the danger wasn't just whispers anymore. It was fire waiting to consume. And I was right, because that very night something happened that would change everything. The stone lay on the ground where I had dropped it, the paper fluttering in the evening breeze. Next time, we won't just laugh. We'll burn everything. The words seared themselves into my mind. My hands trembled, my chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I spun around, scanning the street, the fence, the trees beyond. Nothing. No faces. No footsteps. Just shadows stretching long across the dust as the sun dipped below the horizon. But I knew. They were there. Watching. Waiting. The fear crawled into my bones and stayed there. When Grandma returned from her neighbor's house, I ran to her, clutching the note. Grandma. Look. They're going to burn the house. She took the paper and read it slowly. Her lips tightened, her eyes narrowed, and then she let out a long, steady breath. So, they want to play with fire. I waited for her to panic, to shout, to gather water and call for help. But she did none of that. Instead, she folded the note carefully and tucked it into her apron. Listen to me, Mary, she said, her voice firm. Fire is a dangerous thing, yes. But people who use fire to scare others often end up burned themselves. Do not let their threats steal your peace. But Grandma, I started, my voice cracking. She held up her hand. No. Fear is what they want. If you let them see it, they win. You must walk with your head high, even if your knees are shaking. Her words were strong, but her eyes betrayed her. I could see it, just a flicker of worry, like a candle flame behind glass. That night, I lay awake listening to every sound, every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind. I imagined sparks, flames licking the walls, smoke choking the air. Each time, my heart raced until I could barely think. But the fire didn't come that night. Nor the next. For a whole week, nothing happened. Life went on. People went to the market. Children played in the dust. Women carried baskets of tomatoes on their heads. To anyone else, it looked as if nothing was wrong. But I knew better. This was not peace. This was waiting. During that week, Daniel began to show his face more boldly. He walked past Grandma's house often, sometimes whistling, sometimes smirking, sometimes tossing a pebble at the fence. His friends followed him like shadows, always laughing, always whispering. One afternoon, as I returned from the stream, Daniel stepped in front of me, blocking the path. Move, I said, my voice small. He grinned. Still scared, Mary? Don't worry. We haven't forgotten you. We're just waiting for the right moment. I tried to step around him, but he moved with me. His eyes locked onto mine, cold and cruel. When we strike, it won't just be laughter this time. You'll wish you had stayed quiet that night. Before I could reply, Grandma's voice rang out from the compound gate. Mary! Where are you? Daniel stepped back, his smile fading. He leaned close, his voice a hiss. Tell your grandma her cane won't save you forever. Then he walked away, whistling again, as if nothing had happened. I stood frozen, the water pot trembling in my hands. That night, I told Grandma everything. Her face grew stern, but she didn't look surprised. Mary, she said, you must understand. Darkness always hates the light. When you refused to be silent, you became a light. Now they are trying to put it out. But hear me. Light does not fear darkness. Darkness fears light. Her words comforted me, but deep down, fear still gnawed at my stomach. Days passed. Then one evening it happened. I was sitting on the bench outside, shelling groundnuts while Grandma prepared supper inside. The sky was darkening, the first stars twinkling above. Suddenly, I caught the faintest smell, sharp, bitter, unmistakable. Smoke. At first, I thought maybe someone nearby was burning firewood. But then I saw it. A thin trail of smoke curling from behind the shed at the edge of our yard. My heart leapt into my throat. I dropped the groundnuts and ran toward it. As I rounded the corner, my eyes widened in horror. Flames. Small, flickering flames licking at the dry grass piled against the shed. They crackled softly, hungry and alive. Grandma! I screamed. Fire! She rushed out, her cane forgotten, a bucket in her hand. Water! Quick! We worked frantically, throwing water on the flames, beating the grass with old cloths. The fire hissed, spat, and fought back, but finally it died. Smoke curled into the night sky, the bitter stench clinging to my hair and clothes. I sank to the ground, trembling. Grandma, they did it. They tried to burn the house. She didn't answer at first. She stood there, her face lit by the glow of dying embers, her eyes hard. Then she said, "This is no longer mischief. This is war." Her words chilled me. I looked around, half expecting to see them hiding in the shadows, laughing at our struggle. But the night was silent. Too silent. That silence was worse than laughter, because it meant they weren't finished. It meant they were planning something bigger. And I was right. For the very next night, when the moon was high and the air was still, a new horror came, louder, bolder, more dangerous than fire. The night was too quiet. That was the first warning. I lay on my mat staring at the ceiling, listening for the familiar sounds, the crickets, the distant barking of dogs, the rustle of leaves. But there was nothing. Just silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Grandma had gone to bed earlier, her breathing steady in the next room. I tried to close my eyes, but sleep would not come. The memory of the flames behind the shed still danced in my mind, their crackling echoing in my ears. Then I heard it. A sound, faint at first, then louder. Drums. I sat up, heart pounding. Who was beating drums at this hour? The sound grew stronger, closer, until it filled the night. Boom, boom, boom. Slow, deliberate beats, as if announcing something, as if warning. I crawled to the window and peered outside. First I saw nothing. Then, from the shadows, figures emerged. For 5, maybe more. Their faces hidden by the night, but their laughter. Oh, I knew that laughter. Daniel and his friends. They weren't hiding this time. They marched openly down the street, banging on tin cans, beating sticks against old drums, chanting my name. Mary! 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 My blood turned cold. Grandma rushed into my room, her eyes wide. "Stay down," she whispered fiercely. She pulled me away from the window, her grip tight. "Don't let them see you." But I had already seen them. And they had already seen the house. The boys gathered outside the gate, chanting louder, pounding the drums harder. Then suddenly, one of them began throwing stones at the fence. Another climbed halfway up, shaking it violently. "Come out, Mary." Daniel's voice rang clear. "Come out and dance for us." The others roared with laughter. I buried my face in Grandma's shoulder, trembling. "They'll break in," I whispered. Grandma held me close, her voice steady despite the noise outside. "No, child. They want you to be afraid. That's their strength. But fear is a chain. Don't give it to them." Her words were strong, but the drums kept pounding, the stones kept flying, and the laughter grew wilder. And then, one of the boys lit a torch. My heart stopped. The flames blazed bright, throwing wild shadows on the fence. He waved it in the air, shouting, "Let's see how fast the old woman runs when fire dances." The others cheered. Grandma's grip on me tightened. "Stay inside," she commanded. Then she opened the door and stepped out into the night. "Grandma, no." I cried, but she was already gone. I ran to the window, heart in my throat. There she stood, small but unshaken, her cane in one hand, her lamp in the other. Her voice rang out, strong and fearless. "Put down that fire, you foolish children. Do you think you can scare me? Do you think I will let you destroy what my hands have built?" For a moment the boys hesitated. Even Daniel shifted uneasily. But then he laughed. "Look at her. An old woman with a stick thinks she can stop us." He motioned to the boy with the torch. The boy grinned and stepped closer to the fence. My stomach dropped. My legs shook. But then out of nowhere a loud shout split the air. "What's going on here?" The boys froze. The torch wavered. From the darkness several men emerged, neighbors roused by the noise. They carried sticks, hose, and lanterns, their faces stern. "Daniel!" one of them barked. "What madness is this? At this hour? Have you lost your senses?" The boys panicked. The torch was thrown down, the drums abandoned. They scattered into the night like frightened dogs. Daniel was the last to run. his eyes locking on me through the window before he disappeared into the shadows. The men stamped out the torch and examined the fence. Thankfully, nothing had caught fire. Grandma bowed slightly in thanks. You came at the right time. One of the men frowned. This cannot continue. That boy has gone too far. We will call a meeting with the elders tomorrow. At those words, my chest loosened. Finally, someone was going to listen. Someone was going to stop him. But deep inside, a whisper of doubt remained. Would the elders really stop Daniel? Or would he find another way, a darker way, to strike again? The next morning, the whole town buzzed with talk. Everyone had heard about the torch, the drums, the madness outside our gate. Some shook their heads, some laughed, some whispered that Daniel had finally lost control. When the elders gathered in the town square, Grandma and I went too. My legs felt weak as I walked, but I kept my head high, remembering her words. Daniel stood before the elders, his uncle by his side. His friends hovered nearby, their faces nervous. The head elder, a tall man with a beard white as cotton, spoke sternly. Daniel, is it true you led boys to terrorize this woman and her granddaughter last night? Daniel lowered his head, his voice soft and innocent. No, elder. It is not true. I was at home. Someone must be lying about me. My jaw dropped. Lying? How could he lie so boldly? The elder's eyes narrowed. Many saw you. Will they all lie? Daniel's uncle stepped forward, his voice firm. Elders, you know children. They play. Sometimes they make noise. But to call it terror? To accuse my nephew of fire? That is too much. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Grandma stepped forward, her voice sharp. Play? You call fire play? You call threats play? If you continue to protect him, one day he will burn more than fences. He will burn lives. The crowd grew louder. Some nodded in agreement, others shook their heads. The head elder raised his hand for silence. Enough. We will not decide today. We will watch Daniel. If he is seen again in mischief, punishment will come. Until then, let there be peace. My heart sank. Peace. What peace? This was no peace. This was delay. And delay was exactly what Daniel wanted. As the crowd dispersed, Daniel caught my eye. He smiled that cruel smile, the one that promised more pain. And I knew then, the elders would not save me. Not yet. That night I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I sat outside, staring at the sky, praying for strength. Grandma sat beside me, quiet, her hand on mine. Finally she whispered, Child, storms do not last forever. But sometimes they destroy much before they pass. You must be ready. Ready for whatever comes. Her words sank deep into me like seeds waiting to grow. But even she could not have prepared me for what came next. Because 2 nights later the boys struck again. And this time they didn't come with fire. They came with blood. The night they came for blood was the night everything changed. Daniel and his friends had thought themselves untouchable. They thought the laughter, the fire, the threats could go on forever. But that night they went too far. They attacked another girl. Not me this time, but someone else from the village. And when the village woke to her cries, when the elders saw her bruises and heard her sobs, the truth could no longer be hidden. No uncle could defend him. No lie could protect him. Daniel's laughter, once loud and cruel, died in his throat. The elders gathered the whole community. For the first time everyone heard my story too. The clearing, the laughter, my shame, the fire at the shed, the drums in the night, the stone with its threat. Every piece of it came out, and the people listened in stunned silence. And then the elders declared judgment. Daniel and his friends were banished from the town. Never again would they walk our streets. Never again would their laughter poison the air. When the sentence was read, I felt my knees weaken. Not from fear this time, but from the weight of release. Tears spilled down my cheeks as Grandma wrapped her arms around me, whispering, You see, child? The truth cannot stay buried forever. For weeks after, I still flinched at sudden sounds, still woke at night from dreams of laughter and fire. But slowly healing began. The whispers in the market faded. The stares softened. And those scars remained, they no longer bled. One evening as I sat outside shelling groundnuts again, Grandma told me, Mary, the world is full of people like Daniel. people who laugh at another's pain, people who think cruelty makes them strong. But laughter built on cruelty always turns to ash. Remember that. Let it guide you. Her words settled in my heart like a seed planted deep in the soil. And so, the title of my story lived on. Their laughter had once filled the air as my clothes fell, but it had not broken me. Their deed had turned to ash, and from those ashes, I had risen stronger. I learned that shame is not in what others do to you. It is in what you choose to carry. And I chose not to carry their shame anymore. Instead, I carried Grandma's words, her strength, her wisdom. And that, more than anything, was what saved me. The laughter had ended, but the lesson remained forever.